During the early years of the Cold War, the Strategic Air Command of the United States Air Force had a straightforward defense strategy. If the conflict escalated, they would have fighters with nuclear bomber planes that were so fast that they would be unstoppable. These innovative aircraft would be able to dash into the Soviet Union and Chinese territory at speeds and altitudes that enemy missiles would not be able to reach. To accomplish this, they needed an extremely fast plane with a radical design that could put on a show. Convair responded to their needs by providing them with the world's first operational supersonic bomber, the B-58 Hustler. The Hustler model plane heralded a new era of fantastic aircraft. The B-58 was thought to be an ideal projection of American power and strength, with its shiny attention-grabbing armor, sleek delta-wing design, roaring takeoff, and notorious sonic boom. B-58s set numerous world records, some of which still stand today. However, 22% of the Hustlers built were destroyed in unfortunate incidents. Even the most experienced pilots were terrified of flying it, and the Soviet Air Force jeopardized its combat future before it even began. In the case of the Hustler, anti-aircraft technology advanced faster than its supersonic speed. Convair submitted several proposals for a delta-wing bomber design after the Air Force issued a generalized bomber study in 1949. The plane would be powered by 3 General Electric J-53 turbojet engines and would have a range of 3,000 miles and a top speed of 1,000 miles per hour. This was a bold proposal. Captain Chuck Yeager of the United States Air Force had only broken the sound barrier aboard the Bell X-1 2 years before. The Air Force, however, was impressed and selected Boeing's MX-1712 and Convair's MX-1626 proposals for a Phase 1 study, leaving Curtis Douglas Martin and North American Aviation out of the project. Convair made several changes to the proposal during this phase, including replacing the J-53 turbojet engines with 4 of the newer J-79 models and redesigning the aircraft body to have a much narrower fuselage. These changes made the bomber's design more suitable for supersonic flight, allowing it to win a close race against Boeing. When it came time to make a decision, the Air Force reportedly considered the fact that Boeing was already producing the B-52 Stratofortress and instead chose Convair's MX-1626 to diversify manufacturers. The Air Force awarded a contract in February 1953 to develop Convair's proposal, now known as the B-58. The B-58 Hustler was a delta-wing aircraft bomber with 4 turbojets J-79 General Electric engines mounted on the wings. The innovative aircraft featured sophisticated and cutting-edge technology, such as inertial guidance navigation and bombing systems. They included recorded messages in a woman's voice to warn crew members of unforeseen flight conditions. Convair engineers designed the B-58 skin out of honeycombed fiberglass sandwiched between aluminum and steel plates, glued together to reduce overheating during a supersonic cruise. Despite the lack of a bomb bay, the B-58 could externally carry a single nuclear weapon with a centerline fuel pod. If the fuel pod was removed, 4 additional nuclear or conventional weapons could be carried on external hardpoints. However, because the aircraft's fuel capacity was already limited, this reduced its range even further. The WASP waist fuselage on the B-58 was no exception to unconventional innovation. Each of the 3 crew members had their own compartment: a pilot, a navigator or bombardier, and a defensive systems operator. The team passed notes along via a string system that ran along the main wall of the cabin, separated by equipment. Conveyor engineers were required to design a one-of-a-kind emergency ejection device because previous designs were not suitable for supersonic speed. Engineers were able to develop a novelty escape pod after a few years and a few unfortunate accidents. It was made up of protective shell armor that encased the seat and control stick, as well as an attached oxygen cylinder. This armor allowed the pilot to continue flying even while inside the pod, allowing him to maneuver into an optimal ejection orientation and conduct an immediate escape if possible. If necessary, the capsule could be used as a flotation device, and the shell could be used as a life raft by a crew member. These innovative ejection systems were also tested on live animals, including bears and chimps, which was unusual for the time. With a length of 95.1 feet, and a wingspan of 56.9 feet. The Hustler was a small bomber. One of the bomber's most significant weaknesses for a jet designed to infiltrate the seemingly limitless Soviet airspace was its size. Because of the limited fuel loading, it only had a standard range of 1740 miles, requiring the Air Force to base the bomber jets in Europe or dedicate significant numbers of tankers solely for airborne refueling. Despite these limitations, the Hustler was given a lot of hope. The B-58 had to be not only the best bomber of the U.S. Strategic Air Command, but it also had to demonstrate that American aerial technology and innovation were the best on the planet. The first flight of the Hustler was on November 11, 1956, from the Convair facilities at Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth, Texas. It took 38 minutes to complete and reached an altitude of 63,400 feet. This was also the public debut of the B-58. 30,000 people stood in awe as the bomber plane lifted off from the ground, admiring the feat of design and speed. Later that month, the Hustler completed its first supersonic flight, making the B-58 the first operational bomber capable of Mach 2. The sonic boom sound it made in flight became the Hustler's trademark, and concerned civilians beneath its flight paths widely reported it. The B-58 was one of the first planes to use a fundamental piece of knowledge about overcoming drag in supersonic flight. The pilot had to sweep the wings at an angle that allowed the plane to fly within the Mach cone in order to break the sound barrier. A three-dimensional bow-shaped wave formed around a body traveling at supersonic speed in the air. The airflow around the wings remains subsonic when they are within that cone, allowing for stable flight. The Chinese MiG-21 fish bed was determined to be the only aircraft capable of intercepting in 1964 by the CIA. The Hustler was an expensive program. A single B-58 would cost $98 million today. Some test pilots even quit due to the constant threat of crashes. They didn't want to risk their lives over such a high risk of disaster. Nonetheless, the Hustler was popular with others, and crews from all over the country wanted to try it out. Few people have had the opportunity to fly faster than the speed of sound. The Hustler would still be in service if a bomber could only be judged by its coolness factor. With a slew of flaws, a high price tag, and several operational challenges, the B-58 bomber, which was designed for the sole purpose of delivering high-altitude nuclear strikes, had little chance of remaining in service for long. The B-58 never saw action. The Hustler was retired by the Air Force Strategic Air Command in 1970. Political infighting and budget constraints have dogged the Convair project since its inception. Due to the shocking accident rate, it simply became too expensive to continue funding. As Nixon's presidency began and the United States approached a stalemate in Vietnam, a new trend of multi-purpose aircraft capable of low-altitude flight began. The Hustler was rendered obsolete. Regardless, it is a remarkable and well-known aircraft. The aircraft set numerous world records, some of which are still standing today. We appreciate you taking the time to watch our video. Make sure you're not missing out on any of the exciting content we're creating that's based on historical events by liking and subscribing to our channel. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the section below. See you in the next video.